As if sensing her resolve, Malik took a step closer, his presence both anchoring and electrifying. And what if I can't keep you safe? Cleo met his gaze, intense and unyielding, bearing the truths of loyalty and desire. What if I'm more than just someone to be saved? Her breath caught, the tension of ambition crackling in the air between them. Across the ballroom, the doors swung open with a flourish, revealing a cascade of guests, a mixture of gentry and those who floundered within the shadows. Whitmore himself entered with a predatory grin, a slyness in his step that set Cleo's pulse racing. She could see it in his eyes, the arrogance of a man who did not fear exposure. "Stay close," Malik murmured, shifting to block her line of sight. The protective instinct radiating from him heightened the dissonance in her heart. Cleo moved instinctively, allowing her gaze to flicker past Malik's shoulder. "No, let me look. If we're going to expose him, I need to know what I'm up against," she insisted. The softness of her voice betrayed the steeliness of her resolve. "Fine, but if he so much as blinks in your direction, he won't, because I'm going to handle this." Cleo tilted her chin defiantly. The room surged with life around them, the chatter, the laughter, all wrapped in anticipation of the coming soiree. But shadows loomed where Whitmore prowled, and she could not ignore the chance for illumination. Malik's deep breath set the air stirring, a heated exchange full of suppressed emotions, each word oscillating like an unstrung bow. "You're playing with fire, Cleo." "Then let the flames guide me," she said, a challenge lacing her tone, eyes locked onto Whitmore now, a glimmer of purpose settling in her resolve. "Cleo," Malik began, but she turned away, capturing the moment as he gazed at her with a blend of admiration and exasperation that warmed her from within. She stepped forward, her resolve solidified, the stakes pressing at the edges of her mind. Let's see how long he can keep standing when his empire starts to crumble. The words, bold and unyielding, resonated in the vibrant atmosphere as a path forward materialized amidst the chaos, vibrant and vital. Captivated by the desperate spark in her determination, Malik stepped back, a reluctant ally to her audacity. "Together, then?" "Together?" she echoed, embers of defiance igniting between them, her heart quickening. As they began their pursuit, the stakes were high and the air thick with unspoken promise, mingling with the intoxicating scent of ambition and danger. Scene 33. Hints of danger. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the meticulously arranged gardens of the Seke estate. The air was thick with the scent of blooming lilacs, sweet yet sharp, much like the tension hanging between Cleo and Malik. As they strolled along the gravel path, the sounds of cheerful laughter from a nearby garden party drifted through the air, contrasting with the weight of their conversation. Malik's tall, imposing figure walked a half step ahead, his movements confident but still shadowed by something unspoken. "Do you ever think about it?" Cleo asked, her voice steady but edged with curiosity. She stood in the sunlight, her skin glowing, but a chill swept through her as she watched Malik from behind. "The past, I mean. The good and the bad." Malik paused, casting a sidelong glance over his shoulder. "It depends on what you're asking, Cleo. I've learned that scars tell stories, but not everyone wants to hear them." His words lingered in the air, heavy and loaded with an incomprehensible sorrow. Despite the warmth of the day, a distant thunder rumbled ominously, like the foreboding feelings churning within her. Cleo felt her heartbeat quicken as she stepped closer, drawn to him against her better judgment. "I want to hear yours," she urged softly, her boldness surprising even herself. "If you'd trust me enough to share." He shifted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his handsome features. "You don't know what you're asking for," he murmured, turning to face her fully now. The tension between them coiled tighter, almost palpable. Cleo's heart raced, confusion mixing with a longing that left her breathless. "Maybe I don't, but I do know that I need to understand you. Our lives, it feels like they're intertwined now, tangled in shadows." She took a breath, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. "Tell me, Malik, what happened that night?" Malik's jaw tightened, and the light in his eyes dimmed as memories washed over him. "It's not a fairy tale, Cleo." He exhaled sharply, as though releasing a burden. "The night your mother died, I was there. I didn't intervene when I should have." An electric silence fell between them, the laughter from the garden now a distant echo. Cleo felt heat rise in her cheeks. It was a confession that hung between them, throbbing in the still air. You were. What do you mean? You were there. Her voice, barely a whisper, demanded the silence be filled. A flurry of emotions festered in Malik's dark eyes, but as he turned away to look out over the carefully pruned hedges, shadows creased his brow. I was with my family. It was chaotic. I saw things I wish I could forget. His voice faltered, revealing cracks of intricacy beneath his facade. And I made choices, decisions that left me haunted. What kind of choices? Cleo pressed, feeling the stakes rise with every syllable. She regretted pushing, yet the urge to understand was irresistible. You can't leave me in the dark. Not when what? Malik shot back, spikes of defensiveness in his tone. You think knowing will make this easier? It won't. Secrets are poison, Cleo. They eat away at the soul. She stepped closer, unyielding. Then let's detox together. Her heart raced anew, propelled by an evolving sense of connection and desire. Malik, I want you to trust me. For a moment, the world around them faded, a break in the fabric of reality. The tension in his posture softened, but only slightly. He lowered his voice, barely above a whisper. I can't. Not when my family is involved. There are always strings attached, and love, he hesitated. Love complicates everything. Maybe it doesn't have to, Cleo countered, her heartbeat drumming in her ears like the thunder rumbling overhead. Maybe we can figure this out together. Feeling the rising storm, heavy and electric, they looked at one another, the weight of their shared past wrestling against the burgeoning hope for their future. When a sudden crash of thunder reverberated through the sky, they both jolted. Cleo instinctively reached for Malik's arm. Just then, a shadow flickered across the hedgerow, a flash of movement too quick to identify. Cleo's stomach plummeted. Did you see that? She asked, her voice low as danger seeped into the air. Malik's body stiffened, instinct kicking in as he captured her gaze, eyes ablaze with fierce resolve. Stay close to me. As the tension between them thickened and the whisper of danger lurked just outside their reality, Cleo realized that this might be the moment where everything changed, the boundary between their pasts and whatever future they dared to forge together. Scene 34, the truth of it all. In the shadowy corner of the bustling drawing room, Cleo Seke felt the weight of deception thickening the air around her. The ornate wallpaper, vibrant with a pattern of intertwining vines, now seemed suffocating, its once lively colors muted by the facades of those she trusted. She sipped her tea, the warmth radiating through the delicate porcelain, yet an icy prickle crawled up her spine as Malik Orpheus, his presence magnetic, leaned against the mantelpiece nearby. Don't you find it peculiar? Cleo remarked, her voice low but laced with a simmering edge. How easily people wear masks in this world. Malik turned his gaze to her, his dark eyes piercing as if peeling back the layers of her bravado. Masks are often more comfortable than the truth. Here, the truth is a weapon. She nodded, her insides twisting. How right he was. The more she uncovered about her fiancé's family, especially the blood ties she shared with them, the more she felt like she was at the center of a tangled web woven with secrets. And some wield that weapon recklessly. Cleo pushed her teacup away, the clatter of porcelain echoing in the otherwise hushed gathering. Graceful chandeliers cast golden hues over the assemblage of society's finest, but Cleo felt the room closing in. The laughter echoing through the walls felt foreign now, layered with her frantic thoughts. Friends spoke in clusters, but she felt utterly isolated. Cleo, you look paler than ever, Clara, her friend, chirped with exaggerated concern, adjusting her own deep crimson dress like a peacock showing off its feathers. You should smile more. After all, you're engaged. Right, Cleo replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace than the joyous expression expected. Engaged in a web of nonsense. Speaking of webs, have you spoken to Malik about that invitation? Clara waved towards Malik, who strolled over, his stride confident yet measured. What invitation? Malik's brow furrowed slightly as he approached the two women. His attention sharpened on Cleo, blocking out the surrounding noise. Cleo felt heat rise in her cheeks, an unwelcome flicker of vulnerability flashing across her expression. The one regarding the family meeting? She tried to keep her tone steady, but there was an undercurrent of anxiety. It's important. Is it? Malik asked, his intrigue piqued. What's really going on here, Cleo? The air turned electric, a charged atmosphere enveloping them. Clara cocked her head, sensing the tension but oblivious to the real stakes at play. Malik's protective nature surged forth, igniting a fire in Cleo's gut, as if he was the fortress she never knew she needed. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the room, all eyes turning towards the disturbance. A nearby table, laden with glasses, shattered into a chorus of tinkling glass. Laughter turned to gasps as a group of gentlemen stumbled into the room, one of them, Cleo's brother, Darius, gripping another man by the collar. "You're a coward, Thomas," Darius spat, his voice a thunderclap, the laughter and chatter of society swirling into chaos around them. "You think you can just lie your way through this?" Cleo's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold. Somewhere in that uproar was a clue, a hint of the larger scandal that threatened to envelop her family. Malik instinctively stepped closer, vigilance radiating in his posture. "Stay back, Cleo," he murmured, but not without an edge of concern threading through his tone. "Why should I?" Cleo shot back, anger welling up. "It's my family, all of this. I need to know what's happening." The two men's voices rose, frantic hands gesturing in bold strokes, a dawning realization clawing its way through Cleo's mind. As Darius shoved Thomas, she glimpsed the fleeting panic in Malik's expression, a glimpse of the man beneath his cool exterior. "Darius," Cleo called, shouldering past Malik. "Stop." The room spun with energy, and as Cleo pushed forward, the chaos unfurling, she suddenly felt the endless pull of mistaken allegiances tightening around her. Upon entering the fray, she understood the truth. There were layers to her family's secrets that could no longer be ignored. Their eyes were upon her, Malik's gaze fierce yet wavering, waiting for her next move, as if they both knew this moment would change everything. "Cleo, wait," Malik implored, urgency lacing his voice as she stepped into the heart of the storm, ready to confront her reality. "Perhaps the time for waiting is over," she replied, determination igniting her spirit like a flame against the shadows of deception neath her family's facade. Scene 35, A Hidden Reckoning. The air was thick with tension, each breath a battle against the oppressive humidity that had settled over London like a heavy cloak. Cleo Seke stood in her drawing room, a slate-gray sky visible through the grand windows, clouds in turmoil ominously swirling above. The weight of her decision pressed down upon her like an anvil, and as her heartbeat echoed in the silence, she felt a spark of resolve ignite within her. "Cleo, you can't be serious about confronting Whitmore," her friend Amara said, her voice a tightrope between concern and disbelief. She clutched her shawl around her shoulders, as if the very fabric could fortify her against the storm brewing outside. "He has manipulated my life for long enough," Cleo replied, her voice steady, yet a hint of fierceness flickered in her gaze. "No more cowardice. I will not remain silent while he pulls the strings." With a swift movement, she turned toward the mirror, her reflection a portrait of unwavering determination, bold curls framing her face, eyes aflame with purpose. Malik Orpheus, leaning against the doorframe, watched her intently, a tempest of emotions roiling beneath his calm demeanor. He was a force of nature, with the silhouette of a man who could command storms both inside and outside. "Is it courage or recklessness?" he mused, his tone playful yet laced with genuine concern. "Perhaps a bit of both," Cleo quipped, meeting his gaze. She felt the familiar thrill of their banter, igniting a spark in her that she had long thought extinguished. "But reckless isn't an option anymore. I refuse to be afraid." Just then, a crack of thunder rumbled outside, an echo of her own growing storm. She stepped forward, aligning herself with the promise of action. The air crackled, and as Malik pushed himself away from the wall, it felt as though the world had narrowed, leaving only the two of them suspended in this single moment time, beckoning them toward fate. "Wait," he said, his voice dropping an octave gentler than a whisper, yet commanding. "You don't know what he's capable of. Whitmore doesn't just play games." "I'm aware of the stakes," she shot back, her own intensity matching his. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about taking control of my life." There was a shift in the air, a crackling tension as he moved closer, his presence both reassuring and daunting. "Then allow me to protect you," he offered, silver eyes locking onto hers with a sincerity that resonated deep within her soul. "In whatever comes next." Cleo took a moment, tasting the gravity of the unspoken promise hanging between them. The heartbeat of the storm outside thundered intermittently, as if nature itself understood the weight of their entangled fates. With every passing second, the world around them felt both electric and beautiful. "Are you suggesting I run away?" she challenged, folding her arms defiantly. "I'm suggesting you prepare. You're right to confront him, but don't walk into a den of wolves unarmored." His voice was firm, yet held an undertone of warmth, an invitation to lay down her defenses, if only for a moment. The distance closed between them, their breaths mingling in the charged space. "Armor feels heavy," Cleo breathed, leaning into the intensity of his gaze. "Shouldn't I embrace the wildness?" "Sometimes the wildest thing we can do is lean on someone else," Malik replied softly, taking a step closer, their worlds colliding in that small slice of time. A sliver of daylight broke through the clouds, the light dappling across his features, illuminating his sharp cheekbones and the faintest hint of vulnerability lurking beneath his facade. Cleo felt a wave of emotion surge within her, that delicate tension of past pain and burgeoning hope. "And what if I choose you to lean on?" She was surprised by her boldness, her heart racing beneath the vulnerability of her confession. He paused, surprise flashing across his features, then stepped closer still. "Then we fight together," he whispered, their breaths mingling in the very palpable space between them. The thunder roared in response. Without thinking, she reached out, her fingers brushing against his. The air crackled with an energy that was both dangerous and exhilarating. She was ready to confront Whitmore, but in this moment, she was equally ready to confront whatever this burgeoning relationship could be. "Together, then," she breathed, the words slipping from her lips with a soft vulnerability amidst the storm of conviction. She felt the warmth of his hand find hers, anchoring her against the tides of uncertainty that lay ahead. Scene 36, Chasing Shadows. The sun barely peeked through the thick clouds hanging low in the sky, casting a muted light over the abandoned barn where Cleo Seke and Malik Orpheus had taken refuge. Dust motes danced in the stillness, glinting like the scattered dreams they had both suspended. Cleo leaned against a weathered wooden support beam, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her brow furrowed in concentration. A harsh wind rattled the barn's slats, sending a shiver down her spine. Malik, crouched near a cracked window, peered out, his silhouette framed by the rusting metal of a forgotten latch. His keen eyes darted over the darkening fields, searching. "We can't stay here long," he murmured, tension radiating from him like electric current. He straightened, brushing the dust from his trousers. "They'll be looking for us." Cleo's gaze followed him, heart thrumming with a restless energy. "You make it sound like we're fugitives," she quipped, the edge in her voice belying the vulnerability beneath. A clenched jaw told her more than any words could. They were in danger, and not just from the shadows lurking outside. "You think I'm kidding?" Malik turned sharply, an intensity in his demeanor that drove her breath away. The playfulness that often adorned his features evaporated, replaced by a steely resolve. "You don't know what's at stake." She stepped toward him, their distance shrinking like the time they had left. "And whose fault is it we're in this mess? I didn't ask for any of this." The weight of her frustration loomed between them, a gaping chasm of unspoken fears. "Neither did I." Malik snapped back, his voice low and strained. "But I won't let anyone hurt you." A fleeting softness crossed his expression, a flicker of something deeper that made her stomach twist, an unyielding need mingled with the urgency of their plight. Outside, a sudden crack of thunder echoed, rattling the barn and drawing their attention. Cleo's heart raced. It was a warning, a reminder of the tempest that danced just beyond their refuge. "What if they find us?" she whispered, her bravado thinning under the weight of realization. "We won't let them." Malik stepped closer, the scent of cedar and his warmth enveloping her. The air between them crackled with electric tension, a clash of fear, yearning, and fierce devotion that seemed to suspend time itself. He tentatively reached out, a hesitation lingering as his fingers brushed against her arm. The world melted away, leaving only their connection, raw and unguarded. She leaned into the touch, feeling both the weight of the past and the promise of something more. "What do you want from me, Malik?" The words fell from her lips like raindrops in a thunderstorm, shaking, uncertain, yet carrying a depth of emotion that sought clarity. Malik's breath caught, those dark eyes searching hers, a fire igniting. "I want," he began, his voice dropping to a husky whisper, "to protect you, always, but you have to trust me." A clenched fist at his side betrayed his struggle to articulate the rush of feelings threatening to consume him. "Trust is hard when I'm constantly pulled into this web of deceit. How can I trust you when everything feels like a lie?" Her eyes danced, torn between longing and the instinct to guard her heart. "That's exactly why I need you with me," he admitted, passion threading through his words, "to untangle this mess together." Just then, the creak of wood echoed from the back of the barn, snapping them both into alertness. Malik stiffened, voice now low and commanding. "Stay behind me." He took a protective stance, limbs poised for action. Cleo felt a rush of both admiration and fear as adrenaline coursed through her. Without a moment's hesitation, Malik moved towards the noise, determination burning in his chest. Cleo, despite the dread looming over them, stepped forward. "You can't face this alone, Malik." In that instant, with the storm gathering strength outside, they united against the uncertainty, shadows becoming their only companion. "Together, then," he declared, locking eyes with her, the flicker of vulnerability and strength coalescing in that moment like the clash of the storm brewing outside. "But we need to be careful." As they shared a tense, brief smile, amid the chaos surrounding them, it became clear whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, ready to chase the shadows together. Scene 37. A reckless pursuit. The cobblestone streets of Bath echoed with the hurried shuffle of footsteps, the dying light casting long shadows that danced wildly against the walls of the narrow alleyways. Malik Orpheus pressed Cleo Seke against the comforting coolness of a stone facade, his breath catching as the distant shouts of their pursuers sharpened the atmosphere like a keen knife. Cleo's heart raced, each thump echoing in the hollow space of her chest. "Are they gaining on us?" Her voice was taut, but the edge of excitement danced in her eyes, igniting an unexpected spark of energy. The vulnerability in her words hung in the air, contrasting with the danger that lurked just beyond the corner. "Not yet." Malik's eyes scanned the street ahead, the intensity in his gaze unwavering. He shifted closer, his proximity generating a warmth that contrasted the chill of dusk. "Stay low and don't make a sound." The sudden intimacy of their shared silence was electric, thick with unspoken words. Cleo felt the warmth of his body meld with hers, his presence pushing against the tide of her rising adrenaline. It was dangerous, thrilling, this close proximity to someone who seemed equal parts protector and enigma. "I didn't sign up for a life of crime when I agreed to marry your brother," she quipped, trying to mask the treacherous path her emotions were wandering down. Malik stifled a chuckle, the sound bouncing back off the walls like an echo from some other safer world. "I think we're both in over our heads now." He paused, tension tightening his jaw. "But neither of us are out just yet." Cleo couldn't help but let her gaze linger on him, the way his brow furrowed, the way his lips twitched in a near smirk that belied the fear in his dark eyes. "What about if we have to fight?" she asked, the idea both terrifying and oddly energizing. "I'm not exactly trained in self-defense." "Neither am I," Malik admitted with a surprising levity, his lips curving into a full smile. "But we can improvise." A sudden clamor erupted from the mouth of the alleyway. A group of men were advancing, their voices rising in furious argument as they jostled against one another, losing precious time. Malik's expression hardened, and he felt the flickers of responsibility envelop him like an old cloak. "Listen closely," he whispered, leaning toward her, eyes penetrating. "If it comes to it, you're leaving first, understood? Your safety is my priority." The determination in his voice sliced through the tension, yet her heart fluttered at the raw protectiveness woven within his words. "But you can't just—" "No arguments, Cleo. I won't let you come to harm." His brow knitted in intensity she had rarely seen, and for the first time she recognized the depth of his emotion, his fierce loyalty handcrafted from the ashes of past failures. "This is bigger than us." Her chest tightened. "And what if we don't make it? What if—" she felt her resolve quivering. "What if you've made a promise I can't help but break?" Malik's gaze softened, a flicker of understanding passing between them, something profound that felt like a tether. Then we fight like hell, he said, his voice low but determined. As footsteps pounded closer, he took her hand, the grip warm and reassuring, and they darted into a side passage that led toward the lush gardens of the estate. A blanket of sweet-smelling jasmine enveloped them as they slipped through the foliage, branches rustling around them. Fear danced with excitement. She could feel the rapid beat of his heart mirroring her own. I swear, if this ends in a garden brawl, I'll never hear the end of it from my friends, Cleo teased weakly, her voice like a tight wire ready to snap under pressure. She could feel the thrill of danger coursing between them, a reckless connection igniting against the odds. Malik turned his head, a grin teasing his lips. At least we'll have something to talk about at dinner parties. Their laughter dissipated like smoke, only to be replaced by a charged quiet as the sounds of their pursuers faded into the distance. The two stood pressed against a mosaic of blooming petals, breaths mingling, boundaries blurred. In that fleeting moment, as tension coiled like a spring ready to unleash its force, they could carve out a sliver of joy in the chaos surrounding them. Cleo met Malik's gaze. The vulnerability she had felt earlier shifted into something bold, something profound. Together, then, she whispered, as the chase for their lives loomed all around them. Malik nodded, his expression fierce with promise, a silent vow that their story was just beginning. Scene 38. Malik's sacrifice. The rain drummed insistently against the cobblestones of Brackenhurst Court, a haunting melody that mirrored Cleo's tumultuous heart. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth, mingling with the far-off notes of jasmine from the garden where, only a few hours prior, she had found a moment of peace. Now, shadows curled menacingly at the edges of the alley as the light flickered with the tension, barely illuminating Malik's chiseled features. "Stay close," Malik said, his voice a low rumble that thrummed with both care and urgency. His dark eyes scanned the darkened corners, prowling like a lion surveying its territory. He stepped in front of her instinctively, a protective fortress she couldn't fathom losing. Cleo nodded, her heart taut like a finely strung bow. The lingering chords from their earlier kiss still echoed in the back of her mind, the heat of their connection lingering like the warmth of the sun before a summer storm. "Malik, we should go," she whispered, every fiber of her being urging her to turn back, to retreat to safety. "No." The word was resolute. He turned to face her, his expression unwavering. "We're not leaving until the danger's gone. I can't let them take you." The word "them" hung ominously between them as the tension of the moment thickened. Clay figures stood behind Malik, a row of masked intruders whose faces were shrouded in the darkness of the night. Their intentions reflected in the glinting knives they wielded, like promises of violence. The air crackled, the stage set not just for confrontation, but for the catalyst of change. Cleo inhaled sharply, the metallic tang of fear intermingling with the comforting scent of Malik's worn leather jacket. "This is madness. You're putting yourself at risk." He stepped closer, the world shrinking around them until only the two of them mattered. "And I'll do it 1,000 times if it means keeping you safe." Cleo's breath caught, heat flaring between them again. "But Malik..." Before she could finish, a burst of intense colors exploded before them. A flash of fire ignited the night, a gunshot slicing through the air like a knife. The moment transformed from anticipation to pure chaos. Time slowed as Malik turned, instinct pulling him protectively in front of her, just as the sound of a bullet whizzed through the air. She screamed, instinctively reaching for him as he staggered, the shock on his face, both a question and a bittersweet farewell. "Malik!" Cleo's voice wavered, torn between disbelief and horror as he fell to one knee, clutching his side. Rain mixed with the warm glisten of his blood, blooming in the dark like a fierce flower, vibrant yet tragic. "Cleo," his voice was strained, yet he managed a smile, trying to inject levity into the chaos. "See, I told you I'd protect you, even if it costs me." As the assailants retreated momentarily, Cleo dropped to her knees next to him, oblivious to the rain still falling. "What are you? Why would you do this?" "Because you deserve a chance, so you can thrive," he rasped, each word a struggle. A hint of his previous levity flickered before fading like the last embers of a fire. "Remember our kiss, Cleo? That wasn't just a distraction." The heaviness in her chest deepened. "But you can't leave me." She pressed her hands against the wound, desperate to staunch the flow, her heart racing as terror and admiration clashed wildly within her. He shook his head and, with a deep breath, whispered, "You are more than you know. You will rise from this. I believe in you." In her frantic eyes, Malik saw the wavering flicker of hope, the strength that had attracted him all along. He had always admired her resilience, her unyielding disposition, even when life pressed hard against her. And now, seeing the flicker in her eyes, he accepted that this was his most significant fight won, where love was worth every sacrifice. Let go of the past, Cleo. Start fresh. Be free. Before she could respond, another shot rang out, shattering the air. Ignoring the numbing cold of looming death, Cleo leaned forward, capturing his lips with hers, a wild, desperate kiss that burned like a flame beneath rain-soaked anguish. It tasted of salt and sorrow, a promise fading into the storm as they became entwined. Two complex souls melded in that single moment until the chaos outside threatened to unravel their fragile connection. As she pulled away, he softly said, "You'll be all right. I'll always be with you." But would it be enough? As they faced the darkness looming ever closer, Cleo grasped his hand. She whispered into the tumultuous night, "I won't let you go." Yet the storm would prove to be more than they ever anticipated. Scene 39. Friction and Forgiveness. The evening sky hung low over the city, pregnant with storm clouds, as the wind whispered through the cobbled streets of Regency London. The heavy scent of rain mingled with the smoke of nearby coal fires, wrapping the world in an oppressive gray that mirrored Cleo Seke's turbulent heart. She stood at the edge of her family's estate, the sprawling grounds darkened with shadows, her thoughts racing as thunder rumbled ominously in the distance. Inside the house, Malik Orpheus fought a quiet battle against his growing concern. The faint glow of candlelight flickered from behind the drawn curtains, creating a halo around the figures engaged in hushed discussion. He could hear Cleo's laughter, sharp and bright, but edged with something deeper, something that felt like a call for help he couldn't quite grasp. His mind flicked back to the ancient, hard-won maxim, "Trust no one." Yet Cleo, standing resolute despite the chaos surrounding them, was a puzzle he longed to solve. With a sharp breath, he stepped out into the heavy air. Cleo turned at the sound of the door creaking open, her face illuminated by a sliver of light spilling from within. The moment their eyes met, the weight of unspoken words hung between them, thick and electric. "You shouldn't be out here alone," Malik said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate with urgency against the pre-storm quiet. He stepped closer, feeling the tension crackle like static, stirring something in the pit of his stomach. Cleo flicked a glance behind her, as if to gauge the distance from their chaotic world, then returned her serious gaze to him. "What's the point of sheltering me now, Malik? The storm outside is nothing compared to the one brewing within these walls." His brow furrowed. "Then let's face it together. You don't have to shoulder it all alone." Anger flared in her chest. "I don't want your pity. Pity is what got me into this mess in the first place." She stepped back, the tension between them straining like a bowstring ready to snap. Malik ran a hand through his hair, his dark eyes searching her face, desperate to unravel the complexities swirling there. "This isn't just about you or me anymore. There are forces at play that want to tear apart everything we care about." "And you think you can save me from that?" she challenged, a fierce glimmer in her eyes. "You think your presence can erase the past? Can wipe away the tragedy of who I lost, what my life has become?" The storm rolled closer, and Malik stepped forward, closing the distance between them, the air between them charged. "I want to protect you, Cleo. I can't bear the thought of losing you too." His words hung heavily, filled with unsaid truths, a confession wrapped in vulnerabilities. In her gaze surged a mixture of fear and longing, emotions fighting to surface. "Why? What do you want from me? Honestly?" He hesitated, the candor surprising even him. "Just your trust. But if that's too much—" "It's not," she interrupted, the softness creeping back into her voice. "I just—" Before she could articulate the turmoil within her heart, the first drops of rain began to fall, pattering softly against the stone. Malik reached out, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, his fingers grazing her skin. The unexpected tenderness sent shivers down her spine, leaving her breathless. As the heavens opened, releasing a deluge, Malik leaned closer, seeking an intimacy that felt as natural as the rain cascading around them. "Then let's begin here," he murmured, his voice a seductive whisper barely carried on the wind. "Take a leap with me." And in that moment, under the relentless downpour, Cleo surrendered to both the storm and the man before her. She found herself leaning in, their lips almost touching, breaths mingling, electrified by the friction of shared pain and burgeoning hope. But just as their mouths met in a soft caress, a crashing clap of thunder echoed above, pulling the world back into chaotic reality. Cleo pulled away, startled, heart racing. "What are we doing?" Malik took a step back, the storm outside starkly juxtaposed against the warmth of the connection they had just shared. "Trying to find warmth in the rain," he replied, his voice steady yet laced with emotion. "But the choice is always yours." The weight of his words lingered between them as the rain continued to pour, cascading into their fragile, burgeoning connection, guided by both friction and the promise of forgiveness. Scene 40, breaking free. The air crackled with tension as Cleo stepped into the dimly lit warehouse, metal beams towering like ominous shadows overhead. The fetid smell of old machinery lingered, mingling with the excitement of impending conflict. She could hear the faint drip of water somewhere in the distance, punctuating the charged silence that enveloped her. Cleo's heart raced, a furious drum echoing in her chest as she observed the tense standoff between Malik and Whitmore. Malik's back was to her, broad and unyielding, a wall of determination. He stood with his jaw clenched, a silhouette illuminated only by the shafts of light peeking through barred windows. In contrast, Whitmore leaned against an industrial crate, hands casually in his pockets, the very picture of confidence as he smirked, his gaze flicking between them. "You're making a grave mistake, Malik," Whitmore taunted, voice smooth like silk but soaked in malice. "This fight is better left alone." "It's not just a fight, Whitmore. It's about drawing the line on your tyranny," Malik replied, his voice low and steady, yet tinged with the kind of gravity that suggested he had faced lie after lie. Each word was a weapon, carefully calibrated to peel the facade off Whitmore's smug exterior. Cleo, immersed in the scene, felt a surge of resolve. Every part of her wanted to crumble under the weight of doubt, yet the image of Malik's strength anchored her. A flicker of something admiration, perhaps ignited within her, propelling her forward. "You're wrong, Whitmore," she interjected, stepping beside Malik. "We're not backing down from you." The twist of contempt on Whitmore's face was palpable, as if her declaration had pulled back the curtain on a charade. "Ah, the fiancée," he sneered, though it stumbled off his tongue as if it were poison. "And what do you hope to accomplish, Cleo? You're playing with fire." "Cleo is not afraid of fire. It's what fuels her spirit," Malik challenged, glancing sideways at her, their eyes locking in an electrifying moment. He offered a slight nod, an unspoken acknowledgement that tethered them, a promise that they were in this together. There was an energy that swirled between them, igniting the space, the air thick with unspoken history and burgeoning attraction. Cleo took a step closer to Malik, her proximity firmer than ever before, as though she sought both protection and the confidence to forge her own path. Whitmore rolled his eyes, dismissive. "You think you have the upper hand? You have no idea what you're dealing with." The chill in his tone cut through the reliance of bravado, revealing the threat lurking underneath. "What I know is that you've gone too far, Whitmore," she asserted, feeling the warehouse walls closing in as adrenaline propelled her words. "You've manipulated everyone to suit your image, but no longer. I refuse to be part of your scheme." The palpable tension reached a boiling point, and Whitmore's laugh was sharp threatening, yet ridiculed. "Do you think you can make me cower with bravado? Look around you. The crowd isn't here to save you." But Cleo stood firm, even as doubt flitted around the edges of her mind. Malik's arm brushed against hers, igniting a spark that sent her heart racing. "You're not alone," he whispered as the words swirled like a warm breeze, infusing her with courage. "Run, Cleo. I'll handle this," Malik commanded, eyes fierce and protective. "No," Cleo countered, pushing back against the impulse to flee. "I'm not running anymore. We stand together." With an abrupt shift in the atmosphere, Whitmore's demeanor darkened. "Then together, you'll fall." As Whitmore lunged forward, chaotic energy erupted. Malik's reflexes were instant. He turned, intercepting Whitmore's advance with fluid, powerful motion. The clash was palpable, a spectacle of intensity as the two men tangled amidst crates and shadows, fists flying, grunts echoing off steel. Cleo took a step back, heart hammering as she witnessed not only the physical struggle, but the emotional depth woven in each blow. They were fighting for love, for freedom, and for the chance to dismantle the darkness threatening to engulf them. Amid the chaos, she called out, "You can't win, Whitmore. Your time is over." In the fray, Malik glanced at her, his expression a mix of fierce determination and vulnerable pride. The connection they shared, intense, unbreakable, wrapped around them like an invisible shield, promising strength and the daring to break free from their pasts. Together, he confirmed, eyes blazing with courage as they both faced the storm with unwavering resolve. It wasn't just about the fight, this was liberation, a promise woven into the fabric of their shared struggle. Together, she echoed softly, breathless yet unyielding, two hearts similarly committed to casting away the chains that had bound them for too long. Scene 41. The aftermath. The rain fell in sheets, a continuous cascade that blurred the edges of the cobblestone streets of Ashworth. Each drop drummed a steady rhythm against the window panes of the modest but elegant gathering room at the Seke estate, where Cleo found herself after the chaos had simmered down. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, mingling with the faint aroma of sandalwood from the flickering candles that lined the mantelpiece. The room, adorned in deep emerald and gold brocade, felt warm, and yet a chill coursed through Cleo as she paced before the fireplace, her heels tapping against the polished wooden floor. Never had shadows felt so palpable as they did in that moment, the remnants of her toxic engagement lingering like an unwelcome guest. Cleo's resolve flickered like the flames, a fierce flicker against the encroaching darkness. Her heart drummed like the rain outside, a chaotic beat above the mounting tension that had gripped their recent venture into the criminal underbelly hidden beneath the gilded veneer of their world. "Cleo," Malik's deep voice broke through her thoughts, drawing her gaze. He stood framed in the doorway, the dim light casting an ethereal sheen over his impeccably tailored coat. His hair, recently tousled from their fray, fell slightly over his brow, making the angles of his face even more pronounced. The way he held himself, half in the shadows, half in the light, was an embodiment of the duality both she and he faced. "We need to regroup. The information we acquired, it's vital." She nodded, but not before she felt the pull of his presence. Their shared glance held a world of unspoken words, the remnants of a fraying connection that had been salvaged amidst chaos. A twinge of excitement swept through her, the promise of new beginnings caught in the air, thick with the scent of storm and earth. "Yes, they're waiting downstairs," she replied, her confidence pushing through the veil of doubt that clung to her like winter's chill. As they descended the opulent staircase, the chatter of their gathered allies filtered up from the parlor. Fortified by her burgeoning determination, Cleo opened the door to find a lively scene of animated discussions. Friends and allies sat clustered around, some nursing cups of tea, others poring over maps and notes hastily scrawled across parchment. "Cleo," Yetunde exclaimed first, a warmth in her tone that instantly pulled Cleo forward. "You've outdone us all, your bravery back there." "It wasn't just bravery," Malik interjected, stepping forward, his voice a steady anchor. "It was insight. We must leverage this chaos to dismantle the operation that tangled us all. We can reclaim what is ours." His eyes locked onto Cleo's, ignition sparking between them. Yetunde's teasing grin broke the tension effortlessly. "And you two could use a moment to breathe. That storm left you both more soaked than I'd prefer." Laughter erupted, braiding together the strain into something lighter. Cleo, bemused yet flustered, shot Malik a glance, half playful, half serious. "I didn't realize we were here to present ourselves as drenched monsoons." "Then consider me enchanted by the weather," Malik smirked, the teasing glimmer in his eyes pulling at something deep within her. "Focus," Granville, their strategist, interrupted, waving his arms animatedly. "We've got to consider our next moves. The risk is unparalleled." Cleo stepped closer to Malik, her heart racing as she adjusted the tension in the air. "Then let's strategize. But first, I need another moment with." Before she could finish, Malik grasped her wrist and led her to a corner of the room, away from prying eyes. A swirl of heat ignited between them as he leaned in, the proximity sending an electric thrill through her veins. "What do you really want, Cleo?" he whispered, his breath a tantalizing whisper against her cheek. "I want to feel unstoppable," she breathed, her heart pounding. "And I want to reclaim my life and—" Before she could continue, he closed the space, capturing her lips with his in a fervent kiss, grounding her in a way that felt both reckless and safe. The world quieted around them, the debates and plans dissolving into mere background noise as they elicited warmth from one another. The kiss was a promise, a fusion of their shared determination and raw chemistry, both fierce and tender, a clarion call amid the storm. As they finally pulled away, their breaths mingled, both shaken and exhilarated. "Together, then," he said, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth, brightening his somber features. "Let's do this." "Together," she echoed softly, the word imbued with newfound resolve as thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the storm within her heart. Scene masking lies. The late afternoon sun hung low over the bustling streets of the Regency-era city, casting a golden hue on the cobblestones as Cleo Seke strode briskly into Whitmore's sprawling estate. The heavy scent of jasmine and damp earth wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the tension brewing inside her chest. "I didn't think you'd dare to confront me here, Cleo," Whitmore drawled, leaning casually against a marble column, his disarming smile icy. His eyes glinted with something sharp, a predator sizing up its prey. Cleo squared her shoulders, her voice filled with a defiant edge. "Why wouldn't I? This is the heart of your web, and I've come to cut the strings." The vibrant colors of the silk drapes framed the opulent room, yet the beauty felt suffocating in this moment. Whitmore's laughter echoed against the high ceilings, each note tinged with disdain. "How bold of you! But you know nothing of the depths you're diving into." "Then enlighten me, Whitmore," she challenged, stepping closer, her heels clicking assertively against the polished floor. "Do you enjoy ensnaring innocent lives for profit? Does it amuse you?" "Not all lives are innocent, my dear." He smirked, his eyes narrowing as he shifted his gaze to the window, watching the world outside with a glimmer of amusement. "Your mother was complicit in things far darker than you can imagine." Her breath hitched, the air thick with anger and disbelief. "You dare to speak of my mother? You think her image can silence the truth that looms over our families?" His smile faltered, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. For a brief moment, Cleo saw the man beneath the veneer, a boy, perhaps juggling guilt and ambition. "I had no choice," he admitted almost to himself before regaining his composure. "But you have the luxury of choice. You could walk away." "Walk away?" Cleo laughed, the sound devoid of mirth. "You think this is a choice? My life, intertwined with your family's corruption? You turned my engagement into a pawn in your games. Those lives you play with are mine." Whitmore stepped forward, closing the distance between them, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You're pushing me, Cleo. Dangerous games require dangerous alliances." There was a tantalizing tension in the air, charged with shadows of betrayal and the distant laughter of a party echoing from below. "Is that what you call it? An alliance?" She shot back, her heart racing, and not entirely from fury. He was effortlessly handsome, an intoxicating presence that turned her thoughts into a conflict between desire and revulsion. "It seems more like you're the puppeteer, while I'm left untethered." His brow arched. "You think you're free from strings, emotionally raw, using everyone around you. What you need is bravery, not a partner in your deceptions." "You talk about bravery while laced in deceit," she countered, her voice rising in intensity. "What about Malik? What did you do to ensure he walked away from my life when I needed him the most?" Whitmore's expression soured, but behind the ire lay something akin to respect. Brotherly concern. "I won't have him tangled in your reckless decisions." "Reckless decisions?" Cleo stepped closer, fury igniting inside her. "You think I'm defined by my past? I'm reclaiming my life, no matter your games." Just then, the door swung open, and Malik entered, his presence filling the room with a palpable energy. He assessed the scene, his dark, stormy eyes landing on Cleo before narrowing at Whitmore. "This isn't what I had in mind for a reunion." "Malik," Cleo breathed, her heart softening at the sight of him. The tension in the room shifted. Whispers of hope sparkled like the sunlight catching the tears in her eyes. "Leave, Whitmore. This conversation is over." Malik's voice was low, resonant, brimming with a protective strength that made Cleo feel seen. "Why let the past dictate the future, Malik?" Whitmore sneered, folding his arms defiantly. "When lies reveal truths, you should embrace them unless you fear what that might uncover." "We're done unmasking lies," Malik replied, a fierce tenderness in his tone that hung in the air like a warm breeze. He stepped beside Cleo, their shoulders brushing, a spark igniting between them, one that had always simmered beneath the surface. Cleo looked from Malik to Whitmore, the fire in her heart meeting the unyielding resolve in Malik's eyes. "I won't be a pawn any longer, not in Whitmore's games, nor in my twisted family's." Turning to Malik, Cleo's expression softened as the conflicting emotions danced across her face, their connection palpable despite the chaos surrounding them. "Together, we'll uncover the truth, and for once, I wanted to do it as allies." Malik nodded, a slow smile breaking across his handsome face. "Then let the games begin." And with that declaration, they turned together, facing the looming darkness of their realities united. Scene 43, A Sacrificial Love. The air in the dimly lit drawing room hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth, a soft tempest drumming gently against the windows. Cleo Seke knelt on the polished floor, gathering a tangle of lace and silk, remnants of last night's extravagant gathering that had turned sour under the weight of whispered betrayals and unspoken confessions. Each fold of fabric clutched in her fingers felt like a reminder of her tangled emotions, each thread a potential unraveling. Malik Orpheus leaned against the doorframe, a silhouette of dark elegance framed by the flickering candlelight. His presence sent a shiver through Cleo, an unmoving shadow anchored in the chaos around them. "You know, you could ask for help instead of burying yourself in remnants of a charade," he quipped, his tone light, but with an edge that hinted at deeper truths.